600 letters from the late Princess Diana of Wales to Buckingham Palace steward Cyril Dickman.
The estimate reserve price for the whole lots, this is 40 lots altogether, was something like around £13,000.
After reports about lost letters by the late Princess Diana surfaced, Queen Camilla has supposedly gone into hiding. The letters hold offensive secrets, naked emotions, and perhaps incriminating truths about the love affair within the royal entourage, which captivated the world. Why has Diana's voice been so powerful as to make a queen flee? Were the letters intentionally hidden? And what does this mean for the reputation of the British monarchy? Join us in uncovering the secrets behind Queen Camilla's abrupt departure and the shocking exposé of Princess Diana's found letters that will forever rewrite royal history. The discovery of the letters. Princess Diana's long-lost letters have sent shockwaves through the monarchy, so much so that Queen Camilla reportedly fled the country amid the uproar. The letters, which were heartfelt, unguarded, and penned by Diana herself, reveal a side of her relationship with Charles that had long been obscured by the narrative of betrayal. According to royal biographer Ingrid Seward, Diana had once confided that she wanted people to know that she loved Charles, and he loved her. These weren't the bitter words of a woman scorned, but the tender reflections of someone who carried a buried truth that their marriage, before it got dissolved, had been marked by genuine affection and moments of deep intimacy. But there's a more striking revelation. One of the most striking revelations? It was Diana's recollection of the weeks before Prince Harry's birth.
In one handwritten note, soon after the birth of little Prince Harry, Diana talks about Prince William's fascination with his new little brother.
She said it was the closest they've ever been and ever will be in love, concerning her relationship with Charles. But the fairy tale quickly soured. Charles's infamous disappointment that Harry wasn't a girl and Diana's mother snapping back at him in front of Queen Elizabeth II became a turning point. Diana confided that what he does when someone answers back is that the shutters came down. And now, decades later, those shutters are being violently thrown open. The sudden surfacing of these letters, of which many were addressed to Diana's confidant, Violet Collison, has reopened wounds the crown hoped were long scarred over. Letters full of maternal joy, sorrow, and emotional clarity. Letters that painted a raw, unfiltered Diana. And the timing? Uncomfortably close to the Queen's death and Charles's transition to the throne. How does this relate to the Queen's own letters? You'll soon see. After the passing of Queen Elizabeth II,
Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
A personal letter addressed to her son, King Charles III, was discovered and sealed within a red box at Balmoral Castle. Queen Elizabeth II lived a life of dignity and devotion, right up until her very last breath. On September 8, 2022, at the age of 96, the monarch passed away peacefully at Balmoral Castle, having remained committed to her royal responsibilities until the end. Not long after her passing, a footman delivered one of the Queen's iconic red boxes to her private secretary, Sir Edward Young. These red boxes, used to deliver important documents to the sovereign, are known to have only two keys, one for the monarch and one for their secretary. This particular box, the final one the Queen received, held more than just official documents. Inside were two sealed letters, one addressed to her son and successor, King Charles III, and the other to Young himself.
This red box, there is paperwork in it. There's a letter for her son and two sealed letters, one to her son and the other to Sir Edward himself.
What did these letters contain? What the Queen wrote in those letters remains a mystery. Were they final instructions or final farewells? What is certain, however, is that the Queen had sensed the end was near and had made quiet, deliberate preparations. Among her final duties was reviewing the candidates for the Order of Merit, a task she completed just 2 days before her death. The list, marked and returned with her selections, was found in the same red box, ready for Sir Edward to act upon. It was, in every sense, the conclusion of a lifetime of unwavering service. A glimpse into the Queen's last diary entry offers a striking image of normalcy on what turned out to be her final day. It read simply, "Edward came to see me," referring to Young's visit to discuss the swearing-in of the new ministers under Prime Minister Liz Truss. Just 48 hours before her death, Queen Elizabeth had formally accepted Boris Johnson's resignation and appointed Truss in his place, her last official act as sovereign. It could be that, in a tone both tender and reflective, Elizabeth expressed a deep pride in Charles, quietly acknowledging the hardship of his prolonged wait for the throne. Might she have offered heartfelt advice, not as a queen, but as a mother? Perhaps she warned him that the crown would feel heavier, not necessarily from its centuries of tradition, but from the weight of modern scrutiny. Her words, urging him to "speak with your voice, not echo mine," might have been a symbolic invitation for Charles to find his footing while honoring the monarchy's heritage. Could this letter also have revealed personal regrets, an admission of missed moments as a mother, and a hope that Charles's reign would reflect a more emotionally intelligent leadership? If so, it would serve to humanize a woman often seen only through the rigid lens of duty and decorum, revealing a heart that quietly ached beneath the crown. While her letters to Charles and Young may remain forever private, there is one message from the Queen that is destined to be revealed, just not for another 60 years. In 1986, she penned a letter to the people of Sydney, carefully sealed and locked away in the Queen Victoria building. Her instructions are clear, and it is that on a suitable day to be selected by them in the year 2085 AD, they would please open the envelope and convey to the citizens of Sydney her message to them. Amidst the discoveries, Queen Camilla is nowhere to be found. The details are surprising, as you'll soon see. The strange departure. Queen Camilla was a close friend of Princess Diana, and she was also Prince Charles's longtime love interest and eventual wife. Camilla was known to be a support for Diana, especially when they both attended the Ludlow races together, a public debut of Charles and Diana as a couple. However, Diana later suspected Camilla of trying to find out when she could see Charles alone. The affair between Charles and Camilla caused controversy during their marriage.
Do you think Mrs. Parker Bowles was a factor in the breakdown of your marriage?
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Which ultimately led to their divorce. As Queen Camilla disappears from public view amid the letter-fueled media firestorm, the crown stands in the middle of an emotional reckoning. Because these weren't just love letters. They were there to show that before duty, before divorce, before scandal, there was once love, but she isn't alone in the disappearance. Princess Anne, King Charles's sister, often lauded as the royal family's most consistent and duty-bound member, also stunned the public with a deeply personal and emotional departure from public life. In a rare, candid interview, she described her decades at Buckingham Palace as stifling, likening it to a gilded cage that robbed her of personal freedom. Despite her tough public persona, Anne confessed to feelings of isolation and emotional fatigue, revealing the psychological toll of constant surveillance and constrained identity. Her decision to withdraw stirred speculation about the internal tensions within the royal household and whether other royals, especially the younger generation, might eventually reject the rigid expectations tied to their titles. One of the most shocking and controversial stories centered on a dramatic allegation that Prince Harry had been secretly convicted of conspiring in the death of his mother, Princess Diana. The narrative alleged that a dying MI6 agent had testified to Harry's involvement, citing hush money payments made to Diana's driver, Henry Paul. Grainy footage supposedly captured Harry in disguise meeting Paul days before the crash. In this alleged scandal, Harry later made a chilling confession from prison, claiming he accepted blame to protect his children, and subtly suggesting a wider conspiracy within royal or intelligence circles. At the same time, the monarchy received a wake-up call as Queen Camilla was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, an incurable and rare form of blood cancer. Her illnesses, which were initially ascribed to stress or old age, forced her to step back from royal duties, further adding to the instability ushered in by King Charles's own cancer diagnosis. These converging crises posed serious questions about the monarchy's future and whether Prince William would become embroiled in a regency role. But amidst her own battle with illness, Camilla was increasingly finding sympathy from the public. Having once been demonized for having ruined Charles and Diana's marriage, she had gradually rebuilt her public image as a comfortable and established figure. Camilla's ascension to Queen Consort was one of the most dramatic comeback tales in recent times. A decade or so back, she was the other woman, the face of betrayal to Diana's fans. But slowly, through low-key but determined campaigning, particularly for literacy, osteoporosis, and protecting victims of abuse, she rewrote public opinion. Her reading room initiative and low-key diplomacy assisted in softening Charles's image and making the monarchy more approachable. Although rumors persist about her control over Charles, palace insiders more and more portray her as a stabilizing influence, a person who brings the monarchy's old-fashioned formalism into accord with today's emotional openness. Yet she appears to be slowly losing her popularity. Here's why. Camilla's loss of popularity. The complex love triangle between Charles, Camilla, and Diana continues to cast a long shadow over the royal narrative. Charles's relationship with Camilla began in the early 1970s, but was interrupted by royal obligations and her eventual marriage to Andrew Parker Bowles. Diana, though seen as the perfect match on paper, quickly realized she was a substitute in a deeper, unresolved romance. Charles's infamous remark, "Whatever in love means," during their engagement, previewed the emotional chasm that would grow in their marriage. The release of the Camillagate tapes in 1992 confirmed the ongoing affair, deeply humiliating Diana and further eroding public trust in the institution. Taken together, these stories expose the monarchy as a carefully managed institution with fragile seams. Letters, illnesses, candid interviews, and dramatic stories, whether true or fictional, reveal a royal family struggling with the dual demands of tradition and transformation. The younger royals, like Anne and Harry, seem less willing to endure the silence and self-sacrifice their predecessors accepted. Meanwhile, Charles and Camilla are caught between the legacy of a stoic past and the pressures of a hyper-transparent present. And looming above it all is the ever-haunting presence of Princess Diana, whose life and untimely death,
Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident,
continue to shape public sentiment and royal conduct alike. But this is where it gets even more interesting. It was only recently that the gap between Kate's popularity and Camilla's figure has come out strongly in recent polls. Kate has even surpassed King Charles III in popularity, with the Queen falling out of the top 5 most popular. This fact points to how the Princess of Wales has managed to connect with the British people deeper than the Queen Consort. In addition, the interaction between the two of them at official affairs of the royal family has turned cold and detached. The distance is palpable, and even the royal etiquette can no longer conceal the lack between them. With time passing by, the popularity of Kate has noted that she is staging herself as an indispensable figure in the monarchy. This being the priority given to the Princess of Wales is giving rise to rumors of being estranged from Queen Camilla, which upsets Prince William. Her reputation as a faultless mother and her stand for social causes have made the English feel in her the unblemished figure of Lady Di. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla still has a hard time capturing the people's hearts, all amidst controversies and scandals. The increasing gap between Kate and Camilla is not just felt in the polls, but also within the royal family's internal circle. More and more people claim that Kate is able to play an even more prominent role, even to replace Camilla in the future. So, fans were eager to meet him, reporters hoped for a quote, and young martial artists came looking for inspiration. But amidst all the noise and flashing cameras, His eyes caught something different. A little girl stood near the edge of the room, clutching an old book to her chest. It wasn't just any book. It was a Bible. The one her mother had given her on her last birthday, just months before she passed away. The leather cover was faded, the edges frayed, and there were small handwritten notes in the margins, which happened to be little reminders from her mother about faith, love, and strength. Jet Li noticed how tightly she held it. Her small fingers gripped it with quiet desperation. He gestured toward the Bible gently. "Was this from your mother?" She nodded, biting her lip. "She gave it to me when she got sick. She said it would help me when she wasn't around anymore." Her voice cracked on the last words. Jet Li took a deep breath, letting the weight of her through pages filled with highlighted verses and tiny, neat handwriting. "I tried, but I don't understand it." She pointed to a verse her mother had underlined. "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." She traced the words with her finger. She said this one was special, but if God is close to me, why do I feel so alone? Jet Li could tell something was wrong. He had met many people in his life, but pain, the real pain, was unmistakable. He watched as she hesitated, glancing at the crowd, then at him, as if she was trying to gather the courage to speak. Then, slowly, she stepped forward. She stopped a few feet away, looking up at him with wide, sorrowful eyes. Then, in a soft, trembling voice, she asked again, "Do you believe in God?" Jet Li blinked, taken aback. It wasn't the kind of question he usually got. Fans asked about movies, martial arts, and his training, but never something like this. Yet there was something in her voice, a quiet desperation, that made him realize this was no ordinary question. He set his cup down and leaned forward slightly. "What's your name?" The girl hesitated, as if the weight of the conversation was too much for her small shoulders. Then, barely above a whisper, she said, "Lena." "That's a beautiful name," he said gently. She didn't respond. Instead, her grip on the book tightened, her knuckles turning white. "My mommy always told me God is watching over us." Her voice cracked, but she's gone now, and I don't understand why. Jet Li felt a pang in his chest. He had met many people in his life, but grief was a language he knew all too well. "Your mother, she passed away?" he asked carefully. Lena nodded, biting her lip. "She got sick. I prayed for her every day. I asked God to make her better." A tear rolled down her cheek, but he didn't. She still left. Her words hung heavy in the air. The world around them seemed too quiet, as if even the noise of the event had faded into the background. Jet Li took a deep breath. "Lena, do you want to take a walk with me?" She hesitated, then nodded. He gently held out his hand, and after a moment, she placed her small fingers in his. Together, they walked toward a quiet garden just outside the venue, away from the flashing cameras and murmuring voices. Cherry blossom trees lined the path, their petals swaying gently in the breeze. A wooden bench sat beneath one of the largest trees, and Jet Li guided her toward it. They sat in silence for a while, the soft rustling of leaves filling the space between them. Then, in a calm, steady voice, Jet Li spoke. "Lena, can I tell you a story?" She wiped her eyes and nodded. "When I was young, I lost someone I loved too." His gaze softened as he looked up at the sky. I didn't understand it either. I asked the same questions. I wondered if God had forgotten me. Lena looked at him, surprised. "You did?" He nodded. "Do you know what I learned?" She shook her head. "I learned that pain doesn't mean God isn't there. It just means we don't always see the full picture." He sighed. "Sometimes life takes people away, but that doesn't mean love disappears." Lena wiped her nose with her sleeve. "Why would he take my mom? She was a good person." Jet Li's expression softened. "Do you know what your mother left behind?" Lena frowned. Nothing. She's gone. He shook his head. No, Lena. She left behind something very special. She sniffled. What? He reached out and gently tapped her chest. You. Lena blinked, staring at him. Her love, her kindness, everything she taught you, it's all still inside you. She looked down at her book, tracing the edges with her fingers. But it's not the same. No, it's not, Jet Li admitted. And it's okay to feel sad. It just means she was special. Lena's lip quivered. If I can't see her, how do I know she's still with me? Jet Li smiled softly. The same way you know the wind is there. You can't see it, but you can feel it. Lena hesitated. How? Close your eyes. She did. Now, think of your mother. Picture her smile, hear her voice. His voice was calm, steady. Do you remember how she made you feel? Lena's lips trembled. Safe, loved. Jet Li nodded. That's how you know she's still with you. Not in the way you want, not in the way you can touch, but in the way you feel. Lena opened her eyes, tears spilling down her cheeks. So, she's not really gone? Jet Li reached over and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. No, Lena. Love never truly leaves. She took a shaky breath. Do you think God is real? Jet Li thought for a moment, then placed a hand over his heart. I believe that when we show love, when we are kind, when we help others, that is where we find God. He tapped his chest, not in words, not in things we can see, but in what we feel, in the way we care for each other. Lena's small hands gripped her book tighter. So, should I keep being kind, even when it hurts? Jet Li smiled. Especially when it hurts, because kindness is what keeps love alive. For a long time, they sat there in silence, listening to the wind rustle through the trees. Finally, Lena whispered, I miss her so much. Jet Li nodded. You always will, and that's okay. It just means she was special. She looked up at him, a small, sad smile playing on her lips. Thank you. Jet Li placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Whenever you doubt, whenever you feel lost, look for love. That's where you'll find your answer. Lena took a deep breath, wiping away her tears. The sorrow in her eyes was still there, but something else had joined it. Hope. As the cherry blossoms swayed above them, Jet Li realized something. He had gone there as an actor, a martial artist, and a celebrity, but he was leaving as something else. A teacher, and perhaps even a student. The moment between Jet Li and Lena became an instant sensation. A short video of their conversation, recorded by an attendee, was uploaded to social media, and within hours, it went viral. The raw emotion in Lena's voice, the sincerity in Jet Li's words, and the quiet strength of their exchange touched millions. On X, thousands of users shared the clip, expressing how deeply it resonated with them. This isn't just a conversation, this is a lesson in love, faith, and healing, one tweet read. Another user wrote, I lost my father last year, and this just made me cry all over again. Thank you, Jet Li, for reminding us that love never truly leaves. Instagram was flooded with comments from people who had experienced loss. Celebrities and influencers also joined the conversation. A well-known motivational speaker posted, "This is why Jet Li is more than just a martial artist. His wisdom and compassion are what make him a true legend." Others shared their own stories of grief, turning the comments section into a space of healing and shared experiences. TikTok users took the conversation even further. The hashtag number #JetLiFaithTalk began trending, with thousands of people stitching the video, sharing their thoughts, and reflecting on the meaning of faith during difficult times. A grief counselor uploaded a video discussing the psychological and emotional impact of Jet Li's words, saying, "This is exactly what children dealing with loss need to hear." The way he explains faith as something we feel rather than just see is incredibly powerful. Even religious leaders and spiritual figures joined in. A well-known pastor tweeted, "Jet Li just preached a sermon in 2 minutes. Faith is found in love, in kindness, and in the connections we share. A powerful message for all of us." Eventually, Jet Li himself responded to the overwhelming reaction. Posting on his personal Weibo account, he wrote, "I didn't expect this moment to reach so many people, but I'm grateful it did. We all experience loss in life, and sometimes words fail us. But love, real love, never disappears. I hope Lena's story reminds us all to hold on to the love we've been given and to share it with others. That is where true strength lies." Under his post, thousands of comments poured in. Some simply thanked him, while others shared their own experiences, turning the post into a place of comfort and support. In a little space of time, a quiet moment between a grieving little girl and a legendary martial artist became a worldwide message of faith, love, and the power of human connection. A year had passed since that fateful night at the charity event. Jet Li hadn't forgotten about Lena. Every now and then, he would think about her. One evening, as he scrolled through his messages, his assistant handed him an invitation. It was from the same charity organization that had hosted the event last year. They were holding another gathering for orphaned children, and this time, they wanted him to return, not just as a guest, but as a speaker. Jet Li accepted the invitation without hesitation. When he arrived at the venue, the atmosphere was familiar with laughter, music, and children running around. But one thing caught his attention almost immediately. Near the center of the room stood a little girl, speaking softly to another child who was crying. She was holding something in her hands, a small Bible. It was Lena. Jet Li watched from a distance as she knelt beside the younger child, gently rubbing his back. "I know it hurts," she said, her voice calm and steady. "I used to feel the same way, but do you know what my mommy left behind?" The boy sniffled, shaking his head. Lena smiled. "Me, and do you know what your parents left behind?" He hesitated, then mumbled, "Me?" She nodded. "That means their love is still here, inside you." She placed a hand over his chest, just as Jet Li had done for her. "If you close your eyes and remember how they made you feel, you'll know they're never really gone." Jet Li's heart swelled with pride. Later that evening, as the event was winding down, Lena finally noticed him standing nearby. Her eyes lit up and she ran over. "Jet Li," she said excitedly, "you came back." He smiled warmly. "I did, and I saw what you did back there." He gestured toward the young boy. "You've grown a lot." Lena's cheeks turned pink. "I just wanted to help, like you helped me." Jet Li knelt down so they were at eye level. "Lena, you didn't just help him. You passed on the love your mother gave you. That's what real strength is." She glanced down at the Bible in her hands. "I still miss her," she admitted. Jet Li nodded. "You always will, but now you're carrying her kindness forward. And that's how love stays alive." Lena smiled, a smile no longer weighed down by sadness, but filled with purpose. As he stood up, Jet Li realized something profound. That night, a year ago, he had given a grieving girl a lesson in faith, but tonight, he had learned something himself. The greatest wisdom isn't just about finding faith, it's about passing it on. Xi Jinping's humble beginnings. Before he became one of the most powerful figures in the world, Xi Jinping went from humble beginnings in a modest, low-income Chinese household to living in a cave before he was even an adult. These experiences have greatly shaped the person and leader he has turned out to be, and it's no surprise he is so beloved by the Chinese people. Let's take a look at Xi Jinping's early childhood. Imagine growing up in the heart of Beijing, the son of a powerful revolutionary leader, only to see your world turn upside down at the age of 10. That's how life unfolded for Xi Jinping. The Chinese leader was born on June 15, 1953, to Shi Zhongxun, a great man of influence who rose through the ranks to become vice premier and a key figure in the Chinese Communist Party. Do you think these royal issues will ever get resolved? Let us know in the comment section. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. Remember to like, share it, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.